Hey Faith Family, welcome to the Beyond Sunday podcast at Calvary Bible, where we go beyond the Sunday sermon to explore some rabbit holes and to bring some biblical truths to the surface. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. Calvary Bible Church, welcome back. Got another exhilarating
episode of Beyond Sunday.
That's right. You got it. So you ready for a good joke?
Nope.
A bad joke?
Nope.
I can hit the mark on that one.
Nope.
If athletes get athlete's foot, what do astronauts get?
Surely I have to get this.
Surely.
Moon dust foot.
No.
Gravity foot.
It's even a little bit like wintry themed. A winter flower. There's your hint.
A winter flower.
I think it's a
Wow.
I think it's a flower.
Wow.
Mistletoe. Mistletoe.
That is bad.
Yeah.
That's good.
I thought so too.
My.
That's a flower, isn't
Did
it?
you hear that? Yeah.
Yeah, it's a flower.
I guess. I don't know if it's actually a flower.
I think it grows above people's heads.
It grows from some door or it grows in.
It's Advent season.
It is.
It's Advent season. And week one of Advent.
Mm-hmm.
I am glad to be back in this time of year. It's just a good, centering
I love it.
season. So if you're not familiar, we've been doing Advent now for as long as I can remember.
Quite a while.
Yeah, it's like I can
We
remember.
didn't always.
No, but it's been enough years now that I can't remember the last time we didn't
Yeah.
do it. So if you're not familiar with Advent, if you're newer to the church or something like that, it's this leading up to Christmas type Christian tradition and holiday that is less celebratory in the lights and colors and hoopla, and a little bit more of I think of it like an Old Testament, the silent years, between the prophets and Jesus' coming, where they're waiting and they're waiting and they're waiting for the King to come. And that's what this season is, to kind of bring us back to mentally and spiritually, this reminder that this is not our home. We're waiting. And
Do you remember what Advent means?
Coming.
Yeah, or arrival. That's right. Yeah, so it's a really, I always thought of Advent and thought immediately of Christmas. First arrival of the baby Jesus. But as you've helped us with through the years, there's another arrival.
Yeah, and the way I like to say it is, we got one eye on the, on the cradle, and one eye, or no, how do I say it? It's one eye in the sky and one eye on the cross or the cradle, something like that.
Yeah, double focus.
Yeah, we're thinking about two different arrivals. One's coming.
That reading on Sunday was so good. Wow.
Well,
that responsive reading was.
I wish I could take credit for it. I did not write that.
So good.
If you thought I wrote that,
I didn't. I didn't think you did, but I loved it. What I loved about it, I said to Michelle earlier today, I had never thought about all of the things that we enjoy about Christmas, the lights and the festivity and all. It all points to this great event that has taken place. And man, and I know I'm not the only one. A lot of people said that reading was super helpful.
Yeah, that book, it's called Every Moment Holy. A friend of mine recommended it a couple of years ago, and we've read from it a handful of times here in the services. And it's super well written, and
that was powerful.
Yeah,
and the ending of it was, Michelle's mom said the ending of it was so personal.
Yes, yeah, it really did. It felt
she hit it on the head. That was exactly what it felt like.
Yeah, we miss you.
Well done.
Yeah, well, no, that was just came across it and thought it was fitting.
It was.
So it's a good time of year, Advent season.
It's the best.
All right, so we started off week one. This year we're doing the traditional kind of Advent words, and hope is week one. So we're in Romans chapter 8. If you weren't with us, Romans chapter 8. I'm in Hebrews. My Bible's open to Hebrews. Romans 8.
No, do 8.
Yeah, let's go
to Romans 8.
To Romans 8.
I think we started at verse 18.
18 to 25. So quick question, just as a general thought here. What's the thought or Paul's thought behind highlighting creation in Romans 8? Like, why did Paul go there?
Um, so when I looked at the context of this,
Mm-hmm.
I think that what has to happen is uh, I'm just scrolling all the way back to the top just to make sure. So I think the only thing that's drawing him to this so far
Mm-hmm.
is the fact that life on earth has got to give way to another kind of life, but it's more it's more than just an individual redemption. So it goes cosmic um, with what creation has suffered. And
Mm-hmm.
so my only thought would be that when Paul considers the suffering that's going on in the world, he's aware of the curse, and
Mm-hmm.
that original curse announced in full in Genesis 3 does include, of course, the ground suffering and so
Yeah.
forth. So that's about the only thing I could make of that, because um, the two times in the reading, Paul gives creation the ability to feel or to wait.
Mm-hmm.
And so to say that the whole world, the whole created world that is non-human is actually waiting for a redemption that involves us.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't state that, and I should have, that creation itself is waiting for us.
Yeah.
Like it can't be healed until until that salvation is complete in what is called here the revealing of the sons of God. So that's about all I could make of that, is that he's going all the way back to creation, the curse, and its effect.
Yeah.
I don't know, do you have some other, maybe
No,
more
it's just
thoughts on that?
no, that's helpful. And that's a good reminder. Genesis 3, the ground was a part of that curse, and just the comprehensive nature of sin's effects in the
Mhm.
world. It's beyond just the human realm. It's the created world that's affected by it.
I do think for our, what would you call our camps, I think more than likely we focus on individual
Mm-hmm.
salvation. Individualism is of course an American thing as a
Yeah.
whole, but I think we're probably not the ones that are focused too much on, there's more to redemption than just me being redeemed.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about a whole new heavens and a new earth.
Yeah. Um, so then in verse 19, you just read the phrase, the
Yeah.
revealing of the sons of God. Can you just touch on that one more time?
So what I was trying to say on Sunday is that when you and I are facing, some of the hardships and the sufferings of being in these human bodies, which are well fitted for this world, let's remember that at the return of Christ, um, when our salvation is complete, pick the time. I mean, whether you want to talk about at the return of Christ, if you want to talk about the second coming, if you want to talk about the final judgment, whatever time period when our salvation is complete, whenever point in time, there is going to be um, a revealing in the sense of our our bodies are going to look like, let's say, Christ resurrected body. And so, um,
Mm-hmm.
so I was trying to think of, and I probably should have did this on Sunday. Have you ever watched the home makeover shows at all?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So my funnest part is at the very end, and I can't even remember the name of these shows, but there was one show in particular where you knew what the house looked like at the start. And so at the very end, they bring the couple back in, and then they're going to reveal
Mm-hmm.
the chain and the, like, before
Yeah.
and after.
Well,
It's
right.
amazing.
The Chip and Joanna
Well, there
reveal.
would be one. Is that
Yeah.
do they do that where somebody moved a
Oh,
big
yeah.
thing out of the
That
way?
was their thing.
Okay.
Yeah. It's like a picture of the old
Yeah.
house, and then they pull it away.
And I think for me, that was sort of the best illustration I have to think about this revealing. There's going to be a point at which, let's say, God, the angelic beings, they're
Mm-hmm.
going to see that transformation. And that is where, the sons of God, the children of God in verse 21, and then adoption as sons in 23, I made reference to those 3 places where family language is used. So we're going to, at that moment, look like we're supposed to. We'll look more like our Heavenly Father than we do now. So all the limitations of our physical frame and all of this that's been racked by the rebellion, that's going to be erased. And the new life, and including the new body, is really something to look forward to. And I think beyond Sunday, to think about Advent Sunday number 1, at least for us, I know it changes for different churches. Some of them, they do it on different days. But for us, this past Sunday, Advent 1 focused on hope. My hope has to be solid with respect to, I can't wait to see what I'm going to look like. Something like that, as opposed to me getting so caught up with this world, my body, my aches and pains, whatever stage of life, blah, blah, blah. So.
Yeah. But that brings us back to the word hope. And when things are when things are good, you're not really hoping for anything.
You have everything.
So this is a great reminder in Romans 8 here that we're in a season where there's suffering and groaning. I was just thinking about the American church and just Americans in general. I've been thinking about this idea a fair amount recently. Just this idea that, man, the purpose of life is to have fun and to not suffer or go through hard things. And I don't think I mentioned it, but on Sunday, but in our ABF, we're studying Ecclesiastes. We're just talking about, there was that famous poem in Ecclesiastes 3, there's a time for this, a time for that.
Yep.
And it's always contrasted, both extremes and everything then in between.
Exactly.
And we want to run, that was part of our discussion, we want to run, we've talked about this before, just out of difficult times as quickly as possible. But it's usually like a quick escapism that we want to run to. Things are really hard, so I'm going to, solve it with money, or I'm going to solve it with, eating, or I'm going to solve it with whatever, our go-to is, as opposed to maybe recognizing the suffering for what it is and trying to appreciate what we gain from it. I don't know. So I guess my question is, why is that so hard for us? Like, is that an American thing?
Yeah, I think
human thing.
I think it's the human thing. I mean, this is where I've benefited from, through in the past, just reading a lot of older works. It's a human thing, but it's a great reminder that we're built for something better. That knee-jerk reaction for us to say, what we're experiencing on earth with the sufferings, and I use those 2 broad categories, right? Whenever you're dealing with the physical sufferings of your body behaving badly, the moral sufferings of people behaving badly, we know instinctively, that we're built for something better than this. So I think that it's a human dilemma. It drives the human spirit, I think, to continue to create and come up with technology that makes us better. You just think about the effort and the money that's gone into making life better, and so we feel it. We feel like, okay, we were made for something better than this. We know it, and so we're going to do everything we can to create the flourishing that we know humanity is supposed to enjoy. I don't know.
So what would you say to someone who spiritually is just kind of content with where they are? Like, you know what? I don't really desire to grow anymore. I'm going to be happy with these certain sins and my rhythms and routines. And it's kind of it's good enough.
Yeah. I mean, I want to say that our Bible teaching around here, let's start with that. I think our Bible teaching around here needs to continue to drive home the point that we don't study the Bible just to know God better. We study the Bible to know God better so that we'll love Him more. And if we can keep doing that, then I would say to any of you, I'd say to you, as I would say to me, when those plateaus hit and things get complacent, I do need to remember that this is God's kingdom that I'm in, and if I read the Bible correctly, there's no place for me to be lackadaisical about the way in which I use talents, to use a biblical word. So I think that would be one of the ways I would sort of shock myself, is to say, this is God's kingdom. And again, just think about the value of saying every morning to God, our Father who's in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. I can't quote that, say that sincerely, and then kind of say, I'm content.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, yeah. I was even like just this morning kind of thinking about and meditating on the fact that I'm a sinner, and my fear of God is not where it needs to be. As much as I know it and talk about it, and even, try and grow in that understanding of what that looks like in my life, I still feel like if I saw God in the way that he truly is, it would crack me into.
You would be transformed.
Yeah, transformed.
And I think, and what you're saying though, I think is true for all of us. So in the scriptures, any glimpse of God does something to the person, and I'm thinking about, if to go back to what you said, if you and I actually saw God, the first thing it would do, it would humble us. Yeah. Literally to death. It would humble us, because we're not supposed to see him and not die. So it would humble us greatly. But I think the other thing is, don't you think that if you saw him, the reality of that would be his love would be overwhelming, and you'd be so filled with gratitude that you would just do anything for him. And I think that's what the scriptures is saying when God recorded, when you see him, you'll be like him. It'll change us. So our, this Beyond Sunday stuff is, we hope so much for the future and what our eternal state will be like, that, we want to live with that being our confident assurance now. And that's why on Sunday, remember, I ended with the rest of that verse from 2 Corinthians, because we're looking to those things which are not seen as opposed to the things that are seen. So if I really say I'm hoping in the redemption of my body, then that also means my focus is on the unseen things of God. And that drives my life now. And I want that, of course, beyond Sunday.
Yeah. So that takes me to another question. You used a synonym for hope. And I think it was maybe what you just said, like a confident assurance, right? Because we can't see it, can't touch it, but yet there's this confidence level and an assurance there that that's what hope is. Yeah. Is that summarizing what you said on Sunday a little bit?
It is, because, and I was trying to think what was happening in my own head and heart when I'm going through this before coming to Sunday. And it was, how do you describe, how do you define hope? What is hope? And in the Bible, it's desire plus expectancy. Now, the desire part implies that it's something good, something preferable. The expectancy implies that there's no doubt in my mind this is going to happen. And so that's what I was trying to think through is, what is hope? What is biblical hope for us?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good distinction too. The difference between hope, as in, I hope this happens, but a biblical hope.
Yeah, that is very solid. So. And I may not be getting this right, so somebody could check this. But if I remember correctly, my Hebrew professor said that what's interesting about that Hebrew word for hope is that in the ancient world, it was signified by a rope. And so for mariners in particular, to have a rope tied from the boat to the dock or to the shore was that solid, literally that solid line that gave you your direction, and it kept you stable. And I like that illustration. I think I have that right.
I hope too.
Almost, there you go. You caught that. I want to say that Hebrew word is like tikwa, something like that. And if it is, then that's really a good way to think about it. This is something solid for us. It keeps us tethered to reality. That's a preferable future for us. So
So I guess a question in closing to really drive this home for us, post Sunday, beyond Sunday.
Yes, beyond.
what are the things that we tend to hope in? What are those like, man, these are the ones that we go to, Bible church
Yeah.
people, that are false hopes?
Yeah, but you mentioned a couple of those several minutes back, not as many minutes back as you probably could have gone with you and Bill's episode. I hear you said that was pretty long.
Yeah, it was a long one.
So several minutes back, you listed some of those things that we hope in. I think, so if we, when I was looking at the group, if you could have seen them, a lot of us older folks would say that we put our hope in the temporary fixes for our physical bodies a lot. I mean, that's just who we are. So that's one of those, I think, that we're, as opposed to, and what I wanted to make sure we talked about a little bit was at the end of this, but if we hope for what we do not see, we wait for it with patience. So this idea that you were after several minutes back, where rather than try to run immediately away from, why don't we go ahead and listen to verse 25 and say, no, because we have hope, because we're hoping in what we can't see yet, then we're going to wait for it patiently. That word is always used like this, with patient endurance. I'm waiting, I'm enduring the sufferings because I know that what's coming is far greater. And as I said on Sunday with that slide, right, that's equal to saving faith. And I should have quoted, but I didn't. Hebrews, is it like Hebrews 11:1? Now faith is the substance. I'm using probably old language here, but now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen.
Yeah.
So there's hope and faith in that same concept.
Yeah.
So I think there are some of these things like a fix for our bodies now, hoping beyond hope that what would you call it? A social relationship will clear up, or that there'll be healing socially, relationally is the word I was looking for. We hope that there'll be some relational healing in a particular area that can help us move forward. We hope that we coming up, especially this coming year, we hope that government will settle a little bit somehow, or the thoughts about government in our country would settle a little bit. I mean, we hope that the world would see a little more peace. I mean, I could go on and on. I don't know if that's some of the things that, I'd love for all of those things to happen.
And they wouldn't be bad things.
They would not necessarily be bad things. No.
But they don't have saving effects, soul-saving effects.
No, and beyond Sunday, whatever's happening in my world this week, I should look at this text and say, I do believe it's reality. So the sufferings of this present time, they cannot compare to the glory that's to be revealed. I need to know that for sure deep in my heart, because it keeps me from despair through the hardship and the brokenness of this world.
And I think for me in my day-to-day life, when you're in the middle of whatever it is, it's like you can't see beyond what's right in front of you.
So heavy.
So to just pause and try and step back, or wait on a decision patiently and give it a couple of days, and then just gain some perspective. You remind yourself of what's in Romans 8 and you say, okay, it'll be okay.
There's coming a better day. And I also, and I appreciate, and you may be one of those, the folks through the years that have said to me, you've told me about how God has sustained you through very, very difficult times, which means that his grace becomes sufficient at the time. I find myself often wondering, Lord, could I take that? Could I handle that? It's not the point. God promises to give grace when you need it. And that's what he does. He's a good father.
Yeah, that's good news for us.
It's great news.
Good news this Christmas season. So good. Anything else to add?
Well, just make sure beyond Sunday you let that hope drive your daily life, because you can't say in one breath, you and I can't say, well, I believe that there's a better time coming, but I'm not living for God now. That's remember, hope and faith are the same. So I say I believe God, which means my life needs to reflect, his agenda.
Yeah, good.
I need to be on mission.
Yep.
Whatever it is.
It's a good closing word.
Yeah.
Where are we headed next week? What's the word?
The word is peace.
Peace.
And, what's hard is we've been together a lot. So there's only so many peace words in the Bible. Although that word, wow, that because of the reference to peace offerings, and I should have did the math. I didn't do it. I should have done it. I guess if you take out the references to peace offerings in Leviticus and Numbers alone, it dwindles it down. But there's somewhere near 700 references to peace in the Bible.
Wow.
But they're not all theologically loaded. A lot of them are in a standard greeting, peace be to you, or, may your peace return or stuff. But several of them are theologically loaded. So peace is next.
If in 20 years, if you're trying to not repeat texts very often,
it's hard.
It gets harder.
It is. Yeah. Thankfully, they don't. Thankfully, you don't remember a sermon from Sunday to Sunday, so that helps.
But
funny. I do.
How do you catalog them?
I'd keep a record of sermons preached.
Yeah.
I've kept a record all along.
So if you're trying to look back and see, did I preach that text? Do you have them like in biblical order?
I do two things. One is I look at that sermons preached in order chronologically, date by date by date.
Yeah.
But then the other is I go back to my sermon file on my computer, and it's all listed alphabetically from whatever's first, like a First Chronicles or First Samuel. And then after the ones, there's twos, but then it gets into the books alphabetically.
Okay.
And so I can quickly, if that verse looks promising for Sunday on peace, I quickly find both of those files, and I usually have this reaction. Oh man, that was a good one. Not the sermon, but the text. So
that's good.
This one Sunday though is in Proverbs 3, and I'm excited about it.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Have you ever preached through Proverbs?
A long time ago. Not here.
Not here.
Wednesday night we did a lot of Proverbs here.
That's right.
Excuse me. That was early on though.
Okay. Proverbs 3.
Yeah.
Fun stuff. Good. All right. Well, thanks for listening. If you have any questions about this episode or during Randy's sermon, just email them to podcast@cbcmj.com.
During the sermon.
Sure.
What about people writing about past episodes?
Don't do that. Not during the sermon.
Thank you.
Do that in the middle of this podcast.
You
can, go ahead and write us a question. All right. Thanks, Randy. It's good. See you on Sunday. Love you guys. Thanks for joining us. Thanks again for joining us on today's episode. And remember, our Sunday sermons are meant to lead us to a life of worship beyond Sunday.